You know, it's been a wild few months, certainly since the announcement that you were going to be the new guy replacing Tom Duple. What have these last few months been like for you as you just tried to navigate and balance these professional responsibilities you have between the NCHC and the Summit League?
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. First off, it's great to be in Sioux Falls. I've been able to be here now. This is the second time since being announced in early December, but it's been a bit of a balancing and juggling act between the two conferences. Obviously, I'm still working on the NCHC side through the college hockey season, and then kind of slowly transitioning into the Summit League, eventually, I guess, officially taking over the commissioner role in early April. For me, it's been about learning and understanding kind of how the league is operated. The league's in a great position. Tom did a wonderful job, and we've got a great staff here in Sioux Falls that have positioned it well for the future. But for me, it's just really been about kind of understanding and learning some of the things that we've done in the past and maybe some of the things that we can do in the future. But I'm excited. Our family's excited to get to Sioux Falls, but the transition's been it's been crazy at times, but fun.
All right, let's look at you just and the way you're wired. Do you consider yourself to be a big picture guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a big picture guy, but I also think that I'm a guy that pays attention to details. You know, in my existing role with the NCHC, college hockey conferences, single sport conferences in general are small in nature, so our staff is smaller in structure. And so a commissioner of a single sport conference has to be big picture, but the commissioner of a single sport conference also has to be a doer. I think mid-major conferences at the Division I level, Summit League in particular, similarly structured or similar mindset, I should say, as the commissioner role. And so I think you have to, no doubt, be big picture. The membership hires commissioners, has conference offices to help them kind of set course and direction for priorities related to their athletics programs. So the commissioner and our staff at large, we have to be thinking forward and big picture items into the future. Having said that, we have to execute. And so the commissioner and all the staff members in the conference are doers. I am looking forward to being a part of an organization that has maybe a few more staff members. We're a little bit more robust in our structure just based upon the number. But there's no doubt I see myself both as big picture guy and somebody that pays attention to details.
Well, let's take a look at some of those big picture items because the Summit League has a number of them that are relevant to them at this point. And first and foremost, I guess, as you look at this and you get into your new responsibilities with the Summit League, what are your biggest priorities for this league?
Well, I think the first thing is going back to what I said before is just understanding kind of what we've done, how we've operated, how things have come to be. There were a couple key strengths that I saw as really the things that attracted me to the role. Number one, I think the membership is in the best spot maybe that it's ever been in the history of the conference. And that's a credit to Tom and the institutions that have been able to get it to that point. I think we've got a strong foundational base in membership that will help us be successful in the future. Second, because of that, I see schools that have a high level of commitment to the Division I experience. I think we've seen our schools over the past, call it 15 to 20-ish years, transition from Division II to Division I. And I would put a lot of our institutions up against any other Division I, especially in the mid-major world, about their commitment to the Division I experience. And then the last thing is, and I've kind of seen it a little bit when I've been in and around Sioux Falls over the past month. I know that we've got passionate fans in our markets that love our sport. So I think we start with our strengths, and then from there we build out, okay, how do we use our strengths to our advantage? I know membership will be a discussion and a topic that we'll talk about. I know our media landscape, our promotional messaging, our marketing. How do we message the conference kind of broadly to fans? I've talked to our staff just a little bit about this. Every fan has strong affinity to their member school or a particular program at their member school. Fans typically have some affinity to the conference. We have to do more to build stronger affinity to the conference brand. And so we need to do more to tell our story. We need to be more engaging with fans. And so that gets into things like television and digital media. It's taking the strengths and then looking beyond our strengths and seeing, okay, how can we expand upon those to be even better in the future?
Well, you mentioned membership, and that is a big one. As you look toward the future, how do you approach that knowing that right now that particular situation is as unstable, maybe fluid as it's ever been in college athletics?
Well, I think our situation is fairly stable in the Summit League right now. I firmly believe that. I've had conversations with all of our presidents and chancellors, all of our athletics directors. All of them have given a strong commitment to the Summit League. So I feel good about where we are. I would agree with you that things are a bit untenable across the country. I think that relates to some uncertainty about what the NCAA structure may look like into the future. And so some of the moving around and elevating up from Division II to Division I may be because of that. But it will start with taking a quick, and I think it will be a quick look at what is already strong commitment from the existing 10-member institutions. And then membership, I think whether you're in a single sport conference or a multi-sport conference, comes down to what adds value to the conference. We're a collective bunch of institutions that are like-minded. We've come together because we believe in some similar values and thoughts and the way in which we approach intercollegiate athletics. So when we look beyond our walls, and if there's a conversation to be had about expansion, we want to ensure that those that we're talking to add value to what we already bring about as the 10-member institution. So, it's very broad in the way which we look at it, and value can be measured in a lot of different ways, but that's really what it comes down to.
There's certainly a lot of ways that you can make yourselves more attractive to potentially other schools if expansion is part of the picture down the road. And adding sports sometimes is part of that conversation. Specifically with the Summit League, we've heard talk about hockey, maybe even football. Are those two on the radar?
I don't know that they're necessarily on the radar. I think they're always going to be a part of the discussion, maybe a little bit because of the landscape that we live in. We've got 6 institutions that play football, 5 that sit in the Missouri Valley Football Conference and 1 in the Pioneer Football League. We have 3 institutions that play in the NCHC with hockey. We have another institution that plays in the CCHA in hockey. So I think those conversations are just normal and natural. I don't know that I would put it on an agenda or a priority list to say, absolutely, we're talking about hockey, absolutely, we're talking about football. I think those are evolutionary discussions that first start with membership and what does the collective group of 10-member institutions want to be in the future. And if other sports are a part of that discussion, football, hockey, or frankly otherwise, then so be it. If it happens to add value, if it happens to expand brand, build brand of the Summit League, then we'll have those discussions. But I don't know that they're necessarily front and center right exactly now.
You mentioned a lot of schools are kind of spread out right now with their different sports, and football and hockey are 2 of those. Is there an advantage for these schools to have everything under one conference umbrella, or do you think it is case by case?
Probably a great question for an athletics director or a president. I think they would answer that there probably is some synergies that can be taken advantage of. When you've got hockey in one conference, football in another conference, Denver as, for example, lacrosse in a different conference. That can be a little bit challenging in terms of just managing how many conferences you're in. So I think very simplistically, there's probably value in under one roof, but it has to make sense for our institutions. We've got some pretty darn powerful conference brands with football and the Missouri Valley Football Conference and the NCHC and even CCHA on the hockey side, that those institutions would have to think long and hard about whether there's something different to be done.
Broadcast agreements, streaming agreements, those are all a huge part of college athletics and sports in general at this point in this day and age, because there's so many options, so many more options than there used to be. So is that's something you were very instrumental in with the NCHC and the evolution of NCHC.TV. Is there talk of a centralized platform, and how do you handle that with schools that already have broadcast agreements in place with other parties?
Yeah, so let me start by, conferences in general have to provide some kind of necessary evil mechanics that we do. We've got to provide schedules, we've got to provide officiating, we've got to administer issues between member institutions, governance, compliance, those types of things are just necessary. What conferences also need to do, and I think have become even more important recently, which then will relate to the media, is we've got to be storytellers. We've got to tell stories and success moments of individual student athletes, our programs collectively, or frankly the conference league overall. And so media agreements, whether it be linear television, digital network, or just what we're doing with our digital engagement, social media, website, etc., is really, really important. And so I'm just starting to kind of get into, okay, what do the existing media agreements look like? We've got a great partnership with Midco Sports Network. We've obviously got a great partnership with ESPN. Our website's hosted by a company called Sidearm. We're just getting into kind of what does that look like and what does that future hold and how can we best position the Summit League to tell more stories and promote and expand the brand. At the end of the day, Jay, I think it comes down to how do we engage fans that want to be a part of something that we're trying to provide them, a basketball tournament, a broadcast on a linear network, maybe a digital broadcast. How can we also be something special, and I like to use the word cool, to the 17 and the 18-year-old that's out there that says, what conference do I want to be a part of? You know, they make a decision to go into an institution, and that's the most important decision. That's got to be the right fit. But I believe that there's value in what the conference can bring. And so if we can do more to tell stories to make it more cool, so to speak, to be a part of the Summit League, we want to do that from a recruiting standpoint.
Well, obviously this time of year basketball is king, right? And that's certainly true in the Summit League. So the hottest topic this year in this conference, especially in the Dakotas of late, has been mirror scheduling. I know you're just kind of getting into it and probably coming at it from the outside, but how would you assess that situation as it stands? Is mirror scheduling here to stay, or is there a better option for a format going forward?
Yeah, so I would say a couple things. Our membership had a discussion at some point in time. I was not part of those discussions, and I believe voted unanimously to adopt mirror scheduling. It's a common scheduling practice that we see across other, in particular, mid-major conferences. So you're right, I'm just kind of getting into kind of figuring out and looking at and seeing how mirror scheduling has worked. This year has given us some data. The challenge with this year is we got to early January, and all of a sudden we had to move games all over the place because of COVID. And so like the true mirror scheduling of Thursday, Saturday, I don't know was necessarily has been executed or conducted in the way in which everybody thought kind of going in purely because of COVID. So I think we've got to give it a little bit of runway to determine whether it's working the way we thought it would work to our benefit in a lot of the things that the membership discussed before we start getting into are we going to make significant changes or decisions. I'm certainly sensitive and understanding of the viewpoints of some that may not necessarily like it, trying to see men's and women's together, old double headers, that type of style, and what came of that, impact on staff from a week-to-week basis on each of our campuses. So there's a lot of pieces there that we have to analyze. It just seems to me that we've got to give it a little bit more time before we truly say, okay, is it working or not?
The other topic people are really talking about and really starting to talk about now is of course the Summit League tournament, which is coming up here very, very soon. As someone, again, who's just coming in for his first experience with that as the commissioner of this conference, what's your current impression of that tournament and its long-standing relationship with the city of Sioux Falls?
So, well, first of all, I'm excited. I'm excited to come in because what I've heard from a lot of people, and frankly what I know, just living afar and looking at it from afar, whether it was when I have been in the NCHC or frankly previous to the NCHC of my time at Miami University, is that it's one of the best college basketball experiences that you can find in the country, both on the women's and the men's side. And so, and this goes back to the passionate fans that we have that support each of our member schools. They come to the basketball tournament, they circle it on their calendar every year and say, we need to be in Sioux Falls because it's going to be a great experience. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what that's all about. And the partnership with the city, obviously the Premier Center, the Sports Authority, and just everybody that supports the tournament locally here, vitally important to the success of the tournament overall, and frankly, vitally important to the success of the conference. It is our crown jewel event. And so we think we're going to have another great one here in 2022. We're excited to have one that is back in the Premier Center with full attendance, kind of under somewhat normal conditions, so to speak. And so I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we hope we see a lot of fans out for it.
Yeah, I think there's a whole lot of people that feel exactly the way you do about that fact. But Commissioner of the Summit League, Josh Fenton, thanks so much for your time, and good luck with this new job, and looking forward to see where things go from here.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.